You're listening to Car Free Midwest.
We're a podcast based in Omaha, Nebraska, exploring the stories, barriers, and joys of getting around the Midwest without a car.
Our goal is to build a community around more transportation equity and less car dependency.
I'm Sarah Johnson.
And I'm Joshua LeBure. And this is Car Free Midwest. This is the new and improved super positive episode.
Yeah. We are so jazzed and happy and optimistic. And yeah.
This is one of those episodes where I am very excited to remember that there are decent people in the world doing good things.
Yeah.
Just trying to make the world a little bit better place in their own small way. And in those small ways, making a huge impact.
Absolutely. Ripple effect is real. Yeah. We chatted with our buddies in Lincoln, and it's really, I was trying to think of, and I didn't ask him, but I don't know the first time I met Pepe. But yeah, it sounds like he ended up in Lincoln kind of early mid 2000s. So it's probably right around the time where I was leaving CycleWorks maybe. But yeah, he's just always kind of been that cool vegan bike guy. And so, yeah, from humble beginnings to now looking to buy a place, it's a cool story to track.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talk about it in the episode, so I won't get into it, but I've always been a big fan of Pepe, and I'm a big fan of community bike shops. I'm on the board of one, and then also back in Denver.
Ding, you got the Denver in.
Dang. And we had a anarchist collective bike shop similar to that. For some reason, I cannot remember the name. It's now defunct, but at the time it was the only thing I knew like that. It was all anarchist run community bike shop. But now Denver's rife with them. There's a bunch of them the Luckies and other places that do similar things. So it's really cool to see those types of organizations, because I think they're doing, the real on the ground work, getting people on bicycles and making bicycles more accessible.
Yeah, definitely fun to hear about the people that they're impacting positively with just a couple, 2 wheels and a good attitude.
Absolutely. Man, I wish I could remember the name of the anarchist one. It doesn't matter. One time I have kind of a funny story. I bought a bicycle at it was a road bike. I don't remember what it was, maybe a Fuji or something. And I bought it at a yard sale when I was walking around Denver. And I took it to a bike shop, a community bike shop up in Boulder, where my friend was like, hey, you can go over there. They'll show you how to fix your bike. And, it's really cheap and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, cool. So I took it over there. I fixed it up, got it running. And me and my friend were out riding bikes one day, because I ended up giving it to a friend because I actually didn't really need a bike. And so I gave it to a friend, and we were out riding bikes. And then the people at the yard sale waved us and recognized that we were riding that bike. And they were like, oh man, you got that thing running and fixed up real nice. And we're like, yeah. He's like, I think you should give us more money.
Oh,
I don't think we charge you enough.
Oh my God. Oh, money.
Yeah, it was really funny.
That's a funny story. Yeah, that's good. When I bought the
basically
bike,
we just rode off and we're like, no way.
Yeah, see you later,
except
suckers.
with meaner language, maybe.
Yeah. Fair.
I'm not going to ruin our Posy episode with the meaner parts, but
yeah,
it was funny to think back on it and be like,
no way, we will not.
What were you going to say? You were going to say something. I don't remember.
I think it was just about how when I bought that bike for $100 in Lincoln a million years ago, and I brought it to the bike shop, they also told me that they thought it was stolen. They're like, there's no way this person sold you this bike for $100. The whole the fork alone would have been worth $100. It's just one of those things where, well, I don't know. It's mine now.
You're like, well, some people just don't know what they have.
Yeah, that part might be true. He's like, yeah, you might need to get it tuned up. And I was like, okay. And I remember being embarrassed to even ride it in front of him. And the funny also part about this was it was back in the day before, everything was just on the interwebs. And so it was literally on a poster in the dorm. I was living in the dorms, working at the front desk of the dorm, and someone was like, could I hang this poster up? And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And he was selling a bunch of stuff. And there was just like this boring gray bicycle. And I was like, $100, that's a lot for a bicycle. I don't know. But my birthday was coming up. I know now my saddle costs more than that. But my birthday was coming up. I asked my parents for $100, got this bike, tried to test ride it, but didn't even want to ride it in front of them because I was embarrassed like that. I couldn't really, I had been a while since I've ridden a bike. But then, yeah, got it tuned up and then got laughed at. But then actually the two mechanics that were there at that shop that day, one of them I'm still friends with, and the other one unfortunately passed away. Shout out to CVO and all those who loved him. But yeah, just bikes and stories. I love it.
Yeah. I had some of those experiences at first, but then you find like the good people in the community, because I remember my first bike shop experience, I was getting into fixed gears. I didn't know where to go. I went into the bike shop called Cycle Analyst. That was like the big roadie shop at the time. And they were just like not cool, not nice people at all. And then of course, you find, there was a bike shop for a long time in Denver called Salvagetti.
Oh yeah.
And I ended up being friends with a lot of the people that worked there and the owner and just like good folks who did like expensive bikes and stuff, but also like cared about just getting people on bikes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, the guy who started Salvagetti has a company now called Argo where you can turn like your regular bike into a cargo bike.
Oh, that's him?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the same guy. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And he's also the dude who brought like the first like third wave quote unquote coffee shop to Denver called Happy Coffee.
What a guy.
I know. So with that, let's get to our conversation with Anette, Bob, and Pepe from the Lincoln Bike Kitchen.
Now it's super official. Now we're doing this thing.
Now we're officially making a podcast.
All right. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Lincoln Bike Kitchen folks, for joining us today. I think we usually, just start with kind of a little round of introductions. I think this is the most guests that we've had on at the same time. So this is a first for us with a 3-part guest crew. So go ahead,
the Bike
take
Kitchen
it away.
Round Table.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I think actually I will pass it to Pepe first because he is the human that I know and love and associate with the Bike Kitchen. So take it away, Pepe.
Well, my name is Pepe. I started the Bike Kitchen back in the day. Maybe a quick little history on it. When I came to Lincoln, I was living out of my car, which a lot of you know that. And that was in 2004. Once I was able to get a little studio apartment, which was 2006, I started giving bikes away because the Everett neighborhood, I noticed a lot of college students walking to school, and they all had this look on their face like, I don't know, it just looked like it sucked for them. So that prompted me to go dumpster diving and hitting the yard sales and fixing up bikes and putting them in front of the coffee shop, which was Jones's Coffee Shop back in the day. It's now called Tiva on 11th Street. So that was in 2006. In 2008, when I opened Pepe's Bistro, I thought, well, I need to amp up the inventory. So I thought I would do bike barter Saturdays. And I figured, a few people would bring me a bike or two. It didn't happen that way. My apartment filled up. I bought a camper that filled up, and things just got out of control with bikes. Fast forward to 2010. By that time, I met a lot of wonderful people in the community, and we all brainstormed. And a lady, Carol Smith, said she had a storage for me that I could borrow. And I said, or I asked her, what can I use it for? She's like, whatever you want. I'm like, how long? She's like, as long as you need. So I thought it was a storage unit. I met her at the address, and it was a little house that she had planned on tearing down to make a community garden, a food forest. So that's where the Bike Kitchen started. And I held on for about 2 more years after that. because there's an amazing team that just kept coming through those doors. And so I think about 2012 is when I stepped away to focus on the restaurant. And the team that's there now is just, man, there's no way the Bike Kitchen would be where it's at without them. So, big round of applause to them because it's just incredible. I'm always watching and I feel a lot of pride seeing what they're doing, all their hard work and how many lives have changed. So that's the story on the Bike Kitchen, on my part anyways.
Awesome. Thanks for the background, Pepe. That's fun to remember the backstory on the Bike Kitchen. So then I guess my question, since I don't really know much about either of you, Bob or Annette, maybe one of you want to take it away and explain kind of who you are and maybe what your piece of the Bike Kitchen puzzle looks like.
So my name's Anette Thompson, and I first started getting involved with the Bike Kitchen maybe about 4 years ago. I was working at the Juvenile Detention Center as the deputy director, and also riding bikes. I'm a cyclist. And so there were people on my cycle team who were involved in the Bike Kitchen, and they invited me to come and work there, just volunteer. So I'd go out there on Thursday evenings and volunteer and learn how to be a mechanic. So it was actually just kind of fun. The only gal out of all those men working on bikes. It was a little challenging at times.
I feel your pain sometimes, Annette. Go ahead.
I know. Sometimes I'd ask questions and they kind of look at me like, that is like the dumbest question I've ever heard. No. And I think, well, I'm sorry, but I do have the question. I need to have it answered because I can't go on. So they would, answer the question and I'd go on. And eventually I kind of worked my way into the place as far as getting their respect and things. But it's been a lot of fun. And I've since retired a couple years ago. And with COVID, we've kind of had to change our volunteer hours. Pepe had been one that would bring out meals for our Thursday night crews once a month. We'd have a big crew out there on Thursday nights, but with COVID, we've kind of dispersed. And so we're doing it just several days and nights during the week. And so it's much smaller groups. And I do miss that camaraderie and the group kind of thing, but we're still being pretty productive. So yeah, I've learned how to be a bike mechanic and I love doing it. And we've had to change kind of how we do things. So like we currently have about 44 volunteers that work there at the Bike Kitchen, all different times. This last year, we had over 2,000 volunteer hours put into the Bike Kitchen and more than 700 bikes given away, even during COVID. So instead of having people come to the Bike Kitchen and sign up, what they've ended up doing is just, we've worked through schools, through the community resource officers at the schools and the community coordinators. And we've been able to, we've done over 23 schools last year and 46 other organizations that we've worked with in trying to find ways to give the bikes out. So everything has really changed with this COVID thing. It's just like we've had to become more resourceful and kind of figure out how to maneuver around it. But at heart, I'm just, a cyclist and I love the outdoors and doing things outdoors. And I had been challenged economically for a lot of years. And I really do understand what it's like to raise children and not be able to purchase bikes for them. And so my heart is that every family would be able to have a bike for either themselves or their children and not have that cost keeping them from being able to do that. And we have so many amazing bike trails in Lincoln, over 150 miles of paved trails. And for families not to be able to utilize those just because they don't have the resources, it's like, it's my passion. Like I heard Pepe say, his passion was for college students, but also for children and other people in the community. I know his heart. And we also share that same heart. Like, we just really want to connect our community with bicycles and give those bicycles away. And so we just work towards that end. I mean, that's my passion.
Awesome. And it sounds like you've got a lot of great numbers backing up what you're
Oh,
doing.
yeah, I have a little list
That's
here in front of me because I thought
nice.
I am so challenged with names and figures sometimes. Like, I am smart, but I don't always have good memory.
I hear you. No, that was very well done. You've got the experience and then the numbers to back it up. That's cool.
Okay.
Bob, what has your involvement been like with the Bike Kitchen?
I started about 3 years ago. I had recently retired. Was kind of looking for something to fill my time and something that I would enjoy doing and would give back to the community. And it just happened right around that time. There was an article in the paper about the Bike Kitchen. And gosh, clear back in the early 90s, I had taken a bicycle mechanics course through the local community college at one of the bike shops here in town. And I've always kind of been the bike guy around the neighborhood. So I thought, well, this sounds like fun. I'll go do that. And it's turned out to be a lot of fun. It's a good passion. I get together with a group several times a week, and it's very casual, but you know, we have 4 or 5 work benches set up around the shop, and we work on bikes and talk politics or bad jokes or sports or whatever is going on, and have a good time doing it. And it's just been really nice. We've been very fortunate in that the community has supported us in donating their old bicycles. And we get a lot of bicycles that are in pretty bad shape. Even those we can get parts off of and put them in bins to use down the road. Or if it's just beyond that, at least we can scrap it and make sure that the metal gets recycled properly and the rubber in the tires gets recycled properly and it's not going to a landfill. So that helps too, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we also do community repairs too. Now, not so much now since COVID's been going on, but we generally post hours each week, a couple times each week, when we're open for just anybody to come in with a bike that needs a repair. It's not always possible for somebody to take an old lower end bike and go to a bike shop and pay for it to be repaired, and we're happy to do that.
That's awesome. I actually got a used bike. This is the origin story of me getting sucked into bike shop land about 20 years ago. Started in Lincoln. I worked at CycleWorks on 27th and Vine. That was the first shop. And Annette, I feel you with the whole like being the only woman in the shop situation. It's kind of still, unfortunately, always like that. But I bought $100 bike and I brought it into a bike shop. Actually, it was Shields at the time, a million years ago. And I got laughed at by the mechanics there because they were like, "You bought this bike for $100." And I was like, "Oh no." Turns out it was a super sweet specialized S-Works rock hopper, stump jumper. I'm sorry, not rock hopper. Everyone's eyes got big when I said S-Works. Anyway, yeah. So that it's just kind of funny, like those feelings of like being kind of talked down to it sticks with you. But I'm really happy that you're still there because I think seeing just diversity period in bike shops is really important. And I just pulled up, on your website, I really like that it says we advocate for utilitarian bicycling as a vital part of a healthy, equitable, and sustainable community. And that's something, we're car-free Midwest. So we like to dream of what it would look like if people didn't have to be so car dependent. And I think, again, getting kind of hooked on bikes in Lincoln was a very different feel and culture than it is in Omaha. But I guess I would just wonder, I like that you're talking about the sustainability aspect and recycling tires and keeping stuff out of the landfill. What types of like programs, I know you mostly do like earn a bike and that sort of thing, but do you do I guess that utilitarian bicycling is really what kind of piqued my interest. Is there anything that you all do specifically in that, I guess you want to talk about that at all?
Well, we work with the city mission through the Curtis Center. So what they do at the Curtis Center is that they transition homeless people into jobs and into apartments and things like that. And so we work directly with the Curtis Center to provide bicycles for the people getting into jobs. And that really helps because a car is not usually one of the first things they do. And like one of the first gentlemen that we provided a bike for, he had gotten a job at a local fast food place, but it was really hard on his knees because he had some physical disabilities. And by the time he would walk to work, he was so sore, he could barely work. So we provided a bike for him. Well, that really encouraged him. So by the time I brought a couple more bikes down to the Curtis Center, that gentleman was working 2 jobs and doing very well and out in an apartment on his own. And so he was using that bike all the time. So we made sure that we gave some really good bikes to them. And Bob was really helpful in earmarking those bikes that are dependable, good workhorse bikes, you know. Another thing that recently we were working with Lutheran Family Services with the transition of refugees into our community. And they're purchasing baskets to put on the bikes, and they're going to bring the bikes out to us and for us to put those baskets on them. But we've also put baskets on bikes before, that when we've had the baskets to put on them. We just don't have very many. And so that helps as far as the utilitarian. I mean, because those people also getting a car and the insurance and getting a driver's license and all those things, transitioning into a new country is not the first thing on their agenda. But being able to buy groceries and get to a job is one of the first, open door things that they would do when they first come into a community. So we feel like we're kind of in a part for that. Helping with that. In addition,
that's such a great idea. Like, not to interrupt, but I when I've seen people riding with like, with groceries on their handlebars, I've always I had that thought. I was like, why don't we give more people baskets for their bikes? And so I'm so glad to hear that you guys are doing that. That's such a great idea.
Well, and we also have some little racks that the little flat racks that you can put in the back, and you can actually zip tie one of those milk carton things to the back of that. And those are great for transporting groceries and things. So we kind of were talking about that the other day as well, as trying to help people, that may not have the money to buy a basket, because the baskets that they were buying were like $50, but I think they were doing it through some donations. Another group that we've been able to help, you talk about utilitarians, so I'm kind of throwing out some examples. I hope I'm not talking too much. Bob, tell me shut up.
Don't tell her to shut up, Bob. She's doing a great job.
Is we've gotten a few tricycles. And Bob can testify that this is recently we were able to, we've given a couple tricycles now to those who have suffered brain injury. And adult tricycles. And it's for a foundation, can't remember the name of it. Do you remember, Bob?
I don't.
Anyway, it's Gina Schmidt works with them, and she had a brain injury herself several years ago. And so she works with a group that help people transition to become more independent that have suffered brain injuries. And one of the ways in which they can, because sometimes they cannot drive due to seizures and things that are evident with brain injury, but riding a tricycle is something that they can do. And so we've been blessed to be able to provide, I would say, about a half a dozen tricycles in the last couple of years. And we did one just recently. So we don't get a lot of those brought in, but when we do, we try to, and we have about 5 or 6 brain injury people waiting for tricycles should they come our way.
Wow, that's a cool program too, for sure.
Yeah, and so it's kind of utilitarian because we're talking about, a variety of people using bicycles in ways that aren't maybe so much recreation or part of the growing up years or those things. So that's kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things we talk a lot about on this show too, is in the bike community, there's oftentimes I think it's changing a lot, but there's oftentimes a hierarchy of 2-wheel steel bikes, certain brands, certain amount of money you want to spend on it, have the coolest components, all this stuff. And then, certain things in the past and still to this day a little bit, but e-bikes, kind of get, judged or made fun of or something. And then, other things like tricycles and stuff like that. And then you see these real life use cases to why these things exist and how they actually help people get away from their cars. And it's better for the environment. It's better for, them, and it helps them actually be able to get around the cities they live in. And I think that that's so important to hammer home is that, you know, a lot of these things, it's going to take a multitude of utilitarian ideas, and whatever works for that person and that person's body and their situation in life, then, you know, we need to make that accessible for people so people can move around their cities.
Yeah, we totally agree with that. The other thing, as far as utilitarian, is the cost of bicycles. And I think that's really a big thing. Like, you go into a bike shop and you're probably talking at least $100 to buy a bike, you know, maybe more.
More like $500. The bike shops I've been into lately, I feel
Well,
like maybe like Walmart or something like that. Because I haven't seen $100 bike at like a quote unquote, like a local bike shop.
So say $300 to $500 for a bike at a bike shop.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a lot of, I would say social media posts going out is trying to limit those department stores from being able to sell these bikes that aren't worth anything. You may have seen those as well. But there's articles and things, and they're advocating for some kind of legislation that prevents them from being able to sell these cheap bikes because they fall apart and then they end up in the landfill, et cetera, et cetera. But then you have the social inequity that comes up because the people who are buying those low-end bikes, they can't afford the bikes at the bike shops. And if we make legislation so that they can only be high quality bikes, we're going to move them right out of the market. Now, in our local community, we have been very, very blessed to have Walmart give us all their bikes that are returned. So it's true, some of them are not made properly in the manufacturer part. They do not have bike repairmen in their stores, but they will quickly return those bikes and exchange them or give the money back or something towards them. And they in turn give us the bikes. And we just picked up 56 bikes, was it, Bob?
Yeah,
this
56.
week. Yeah, from Walmart. And we've been repairing them and then we give them away. And they are thanking us for taking them.
That's such a beautiful relationship. I love it when it benefits everybody because I have mixed feelings on that one. I'm 100% like just on the same page as far as like the social and economic, you know, disparities that will be even more exacerbated if we do something like that. But I also, it was just so heartbreaking to have someone come into, you know, when I owned a shop or worked at all the different shops over the last lot of years, they'd come in with a bike and it would cost more to tune up than it would be, you know, than they'd pay for it. And that's a really hard conversation too. And I appreciate the desire to keep things out of the landfill and to make sure that everyone who's on 2 wheels or 3 wheels is safe. But I really just wish that instead of just jumping straight to a ban, we would explore more of what you just explained, which is like a totally beautiful symbiotic relationship between the bike kitchen and Walmart. Saves them having to like, I don't know, deal with them however they normally would. Just if they, I have heard, and maybe you can verify this, and it looks like maybe you're about to contribute, Bob, but like, does Walmart just throw away bikes if they get returns?
Normally, yeah, they
Gross.
will just go into a dumpster and go to the landfill. And like Annette said, just one day last week, Walmart called us and said, we've got about 30 bikes here that were maybe damaged in shipping coming in, or our assembler went to put them together and they were missing a part and we can't get the part and they're taking up space. Come get them. And then we got there and they had 50X. We were strapped for space. But, you know, and some of them are basket cases, but they're essentially new bikes. They're not high quality bikes, but if it's put together right and adjusted right, they're a good serviceable piece.
That's interesting. I'm wondering, and this is a question maybe I guess you too or Josh, is there like a community bike project network? Like, because again, I'm going back to like, this seems like such a great opportunity if we could coalesce around this idea of keeping bikes out of landfills and we could have, you know, some sort of communication to other nonprofit bike shops out there, say, hey, Walmart, here's an example of a great relationship that exists in Lincoln, Nebraska. We're really doing it right. You could emulate this in your community. Does a network like that exist? That's why I think going to Walmart and saying, you're everywhere you are, this could save you. If you could somehow, does it save them money? Because I feel like everything has to be about capitalism. Like, does it save them money? Will they be motivated to actually do this in all these communities? Or are you just making it so easy because you all are so delightful to work with and so proactive that it just makes too much sense for them to say no? Does that?
I think that the only way that it saves them money is because we go and get the bikes from them. If they had to deliver the bikes to us, it would not happen. And so it is about money. It's about money and convenience when it comes to a business, especially a business the size of Walmart. And so if a bike shop is saying, hey, we'll come pick them up, the other thing is that they know that we're not reselling them. And so now we're not becoming their competitor, because we also, it's a business thing, you can't take away their business. So we're not being a competitor, but we're doing this. And so, in that sense, I think it's easier for them. It makes it easier. They just load up all the bikes in one corner of their store. And when it gets to be too much, they notify us, we come pick them up. And then they're like all happy with it. So it's one less trip that they have to, and they don't have to pay for someone to take it to the dumpster. So we're saving them a little bit of money. I don't know how many other stuff they dump, but it does save them a little bit of money. But you asked about a coalition of bike kitchens or bike cooperatives throughout the country. There really isn't such. I mean, we are in communication with some of them. There is Free Bikes for Kids, which is a growing organization. In fact, I think they're reaching out to Omaha right now to start an outcome. That works mostly with really big cities. There was some of us, Bob and Clayton and I, we went up to Minneapolis and we worked with Free Bikes for Kids, volunteering a couple days and to see how they work. They basically work 4 months out of the year. They collected about 10,000 bikes and they fix them and then they give them out to the community and then they close down until the next year. And so they're doing that in about, I think it was it 8 communities, 8 cities around the city, or maybe it was more than that.
That sounds right.
Okay. I think it was like 8 around the country and they were talking with like 20 others. And so not so much to make money, but they do have kind of it's not a money making thing at all. It's just more of a cooperative, and they have like a design on how they go about doing it on such a large scale. But when we sat down and talked with them for the population of Lincoln and for what we're doing and giving around 700 a year, that's the percentage of bikes that they give out by giving 10,000 to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So they said that we basically are quite successful in what we're doing for about the same cost. So we had about $37,000 donated last year, but our budget is more about 20. And so we're giving bikes away for, I'm thinking, what was it? Is about $3 a bike or something. I'm trying to think how that worked out.
Our cost compared to our budget per bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around $3, I think's right.
Right. So because we're on an all volunteer staff, we still have to pay for rent, utilities and things. And some bike parts, we also provide helmets and locks for every bike that goes out. So because of that, it costs about $3 a bike to give out, but it's, pretty cost effective.
That's awesome. And so you do not sell any bikes. You only give them away. Is that right?
No, actually, we do sell some bikes. We do get a few very high-end bikes that are donated to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll fix those up and sell them. And then that money goes back into buying helmets and locks for the bike kitchen.
Gotcha.
We sold one carbon bike for $200 and nobody gets any money out of that. It just goes right back into the.
Yeah. Once in a while, somebody will donate a carbon fiber bike or some classic Italian made bike that was, meant for climbing mountains in the Alps. And there are collectors that really value those. And but that's probably one out of hundreds of bikes that we get that we will do that. I think, we gave away 700 bikes last year. We probably sold 40 or 50. And like Annette said, that just goes us to help buy tubes and helmets and locks and pay the rent and keep the lights on.
That's right. I mean, we had about 2,000 bikes donated last year. About 1,000 of those had to be scrapped. But we did get some good parts off of them. And then all of those got recycled, every part of them, just like Bob had said earlier. So our problem is often space, because like Peter Salter will write an article in the journal, right? And And for the next 2 days, we can't keep up. We'll have hundreds of bikes brought in, hundreds. And then we'll have to send out a notice like, we can't take any more bikes. We have no space. Stop. And so we'll tell them, please, no, because we have no place to put them. And they'll be piled up on top of each other. And we can't even get to them to fix them, and we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get these out the door. And so then we go through that cycle. It's either we have like way too many, they're piled high, or then we have no bikes. Like we've given them all away. Now we need more bikes. And so we have this love-hate relationship with bikes coming in. But like Bob said earlier, when he started talking, like our community is so generous, so incredibly generous. And they bring in awesome bikes and things for us to fix and give away. And we're just really excited about that. But we, space wise, it's real challenging.
Yeah, I feel like that reminds me of, I haven't been to the Lincoln Bike Kitchen, but the one in Omaha in Gifford Park, and I feel like it's gotten a little bit better over the years, but it used to be you go into the basement, you couldn't even like walk through. It's just like piles of bikes. So I imagine it to be a similar situation. How big is your facility these days? It's still that little house?
No. It's out on North First Street, and or South First Street. It's it's off of A Street, and it's in a little warehouse type, like half of a warehouse building. The other half is like a car repair place. Gotcha. And I think we have about 5,000 square feet. Is that right, Bob?
No, we're closer to 2,000, I think.
2,000. Okay.
Clayton always calls it 3,000, but he's including our little mezzanine and the bathroom and everything else, I think, in that. We're at the point right now where we have to move bicycles out of the building to be able to go in and work. And then when we're done working on the bikes, we can move all the bikes back in. So, yeah.
I know. We're actually looking at property because we really want something that's bigger so that we can actually operate a little more smoother, and then utilize more volunteers. Because right now it's really even hard to have more volunteers come in and help, although we would love to have them come in and help, because we just don't have the room for them to do it. So we do have money for a down payment, and then we may have to do like a capital campaign, to bring in money just for the building. But we're thinking, since we're a nonprofit, owning a building might be a better economic plan if we can. We're not like looking for something fancy, but just something with more square footage, and maybe a better location, closer to maybe either the needy areas, the needy neighborhoods, or the bike trails. And so we're just kind of looking at different properties. So that's kind of our outlook for now.
That's so cool.
Maybe Walmart will donate a building next.
Oh, we can.
It's funny you should say that. The place we went in Minneapolis, Free Bikes for Kids, actually occupies an abandoned Target store, and this is, I don't know, a building that's over 100,000 square feet. It is absolutely full to the gills. You never saw a sea of bicycles like what they have. I wish I had pictures available to show you, but it was just amazing.
I love that it began with Pepe and his car, and now you're like buying a building. Pepe, we got you back here. That's good. I know you dropped out and came back, but I just want to hear. It's got to be pretty cool to have started with such kind of humble beginnings to see where it is now. I just want to know what's your favorite part of watching how it has progressed?
Well, they've pretty much mentioned everything. Like, I'll watch from the distance and see everything they're doing. And I get the emails and with all the updates, and it's just, gosh, they're just an incredible group of people. As Annette said, Lincoln's a very generous community. Everything they do, and it's just amazing. You're talking about you guys need some baskets out there for the bikes. Maybe we can do a little fundraiser at the restaurant. We'll do burritos for baskets, and you guys keep all the money from those sales. And you know what?
Biggest heart, Pepe. I love how your head works, man.
Burritos go a long way. And this community is so great that all I have to do is do you have extra bike baskets? I'll put that in the caption. It's like, bring them in, get a free burrito, or buy a burrito, and we'll put the whole store on there, and people will bring it in. And that, like I said in the beginning, that's how I kind of got in trouble in the beginning with Bike Barter Saturdays, and back in 2006, people showed up with bikes, and that's how it goes. Everything you're doing out there is just incredible, and I couldn't be happier for what all they've done. Seeing all these kids and all these adults just smiling, they share with me through the email. They'll get a thank you note from somebody every now and then. And one of them was from a gentleman staying out at the mission. He was living at the mission, and then he got an apartment, got his job. I don't know if that's the same guy you guys talked about, but that was just a tearjerker for me. I was just so happy. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. The stories about how bicycles like truly do transform people's lives are my favorite ones. I had a similar story. I helped a guy who came into my shop, and I was not always like the best bike shop owner from a financial perspective, because if someone needed their bike fixed and money was an obstacle, I was like, that's fine. Like, we are just going to fix your bike. And so this guy, JR, came in one time with a bike that he got at a pawn shop, I think it was the Next, wrapped in tinfoil, and his brakes had gone out. He's like, I've got to get to a job interview and I can pay you later. And I was like, JR, don't even worry about the money. You just go get that job. Here you go, fix his brakes. Off he went. And he came back like the next week. It makes me choke up right now, but like, he got the job, and so it's just, that's the thing for me, like my heart appreciates what you all are doing because of those exact stories, where like, if you just give people a little bit of help or a little bit of, inspiration to go let the bike change their world, it's the best part to me. So I'm happy to see that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of what keeps all of us going sometimes, is the humanity of it.
I've got one quick little story. One of the bikes I dropped off back in the day was at a bike shop. I'm sorry, at a coffee shop, Meadowlarks, over on 17th and South. The owner at the time told me about one of the baristas was kind of needing to get around town. So I was like, all right, I've got something for him. And I did. So I dropped it off. It surprised them. And it changed Chris's life. And he just became all about the bike. And at one point, he took the bike on the Amtrak up to, I think it was Washington. And he bicycled all the way down to San Diego, got back home to Lincoln. He moved to New Mexico. But anyways, throughout the biking tour, he met other people and with the same interest. So anyways, Chris is now in Hawaii. He was given an opportunity to go out there and work on a farm. And so he's always posting pictures of all the different beaches and stuff like that where he's on the bike. So that's that. They do
Awesome.
make a big difference. Yeah.
Totally.
I was going to say, what was in the water in 2012? Because, Pepe mentioned the bistro. That's the year, I think, Sarah, you started, didn't you open Omaha?
Yep. OBC.
Bicycle Company? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the year I opened my vegan grocery store in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
What a good year.
Yeah.
Only one of those three. Oh, no, I guess your vegan grocery store's going still. You're just not there. I closed my shop, and Pepe's is still going. Okay, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. Vanessa's still running Nooch, but I'm not there anymore.
I remember bringing I had 2 extra little tables, 2 or 3 tables I brought out to Sarah back in the day.
Yes, you did. I know. This is the thing, Pepe. Like, you're just so generous. Every which way you look, like you're helping somebody, whether it's with, tables for my little new bike and coffee shop where I literally had no money starting that place, or the bike stuff, or even I think Josh had a story about your kindness as well. Josh, you want to, because when we were like, oh, we should bring on Pepe and the Bike Kitchen folks, tell the crew, Josh.
Well, my wife, she's from Nebraska, and her and I hadn't been dating very long. And, we were living in Denver, and she was like, hey, let's go out and visit my friends in Omaha. And I was like, all right. So we drive out to Omaha, and my wife is from Lincoln. So we swing by Lincoln and we go into Pepe's, and I had just opened up my grocery store, and I look on the community board, and he had our Kickstarter rewards like pinned up on the board. And I was like, hey, I own this place.
I remember that.
And then, it was like such a great, first experience in Nebraska.
Yeah, something that doesn't affect Pepe specifically, but he's still helping others. I don't know. I think that's the moral of the Pepe story is like selfless, kind-hearted, happy to have you around, Pepe, for real.
Thanks.
I do think that that because Pepe is the one that started the bike kitchen and had that heart to start with, that's really permeated our organization. It really laid a foundation. I mean, we talk about foundations a lot in starting businesses and kind of a philosophical or, foundation for, the seeds of things. And Pepe started out with that seed of being part of the community and giving back to the community and using the resources of the community for the community. And that has permeated our organization. It really has. And so he laid that good foundation, a solid foundation. And I don't think we can really minimize that at all. I really think that that's really critical. I mean, we look at history so much, especially nowadays with Black Lives Matter and everything, and about history and about the foundations that were laid for different organizations. And as far as the Lincoln Bike Kitchen, we have a good foundation that's laid. And we're trying to build on that foundation and adhere to it. And I hope we never get away from it. I hope that we are always just have that heart that Pepe has of acknowledging that we are the community. Each one of us is the community. And if we pull together and reach out to one another, we can accomplish anything. And if it's providing bikes for anyone in Lincoln and surrounding cities that need a bike, then we will be able to do it. And we don't really have to worry about it. So I really think that that I really appreciate Pepe laying that kind of foundation because it's priceless.
Well, thank you. I'm just a reflection of the community.
Very, very well said.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can top that. That was like the perfect ending to our conversation, I think. Unless there's anything else anybody else wants to bring up or touch on before we let you all go. It's getting towards the top of the hour. We're so grateful for your time. Anybody parting thoughts?
No, just thank you so much for letting us come on and talk to you about Lincoln Bike Kitchen. I mean, I think that the biking community in Nebraska is a really good biking community. I think we need to do more to advocate for bike safety, bike lanes, and those kind of things. So much more bike trails. That we have a lot left to do, but I think that together we can go down that road.
Yeah, and I think the service you guys are providing is undeniably necessary for that goal and mission. And so I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. And that does it for this episode of Car Free Midwest.
We're here every other week with interviews, topics, and documentary pieces covering all things transportation.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Car Free Midwest or visit us at carfreemidwest.com.
Subscribe now to Car Free Midwest wherever you listen to podcasts and support us on Patreon, patreon.com/carfreemidwest.
This is a production of Figure Podcasts, figurepodcasts.com.
With support from Mode Shift Omaha, modeshiftomaha.org.
And then while you're at it, why don't you go to this URL too? It is, I couldn't think of anything funny.
Rideyourbike.net.
Go to rideyourbike.net, bro.
Oh, .net websites. Gotta love them.